Aiden, there's no new issue of Shonen Jump this week.
I'm so upset by this.
What are we gonna do if I can't spend an hour of my day reading Shonen Jump?
It's the only thing that keeps me going. It keeps me up at night knowing I can't read the latest issue of Toriko,
Blue
Boruto,
Exorcist?
Blue Exorcist, Twin Star Exorcist. Wait. Oh
Ayakashi Triangle?
Ayakashi Triangle. I don't even remember that one.
Oh, it's just ninja fan service.
Oh, well, right on. Yeah, we're doing a Jump episode, everybody.
Welcome to Anime Reality.
Woo! As always, I'm Aiden Hall.
I'm Royce McCoy.
And today we have another wonderful episode of Manga Reality, Season 2, Episode 1, Manga Reality, Episode 2. Don't get it confused. And we just want to talk Shonen Jump because it's the thing we always keep up on, and it takes an hour a week to keep up on. And a lot of big things have happened. At the time of this recording, there are now 1,000 chapters of One Piece. Not the first manga to achieve this, but definitely a momentous occasion for a Shonen Jump manga. It has been a long ride.
Yeah,
Bryce?
It's like making it to the moon. People have done it before, but every time someone does, it's like, geez, 1,000.
It's
1,000. One Piece has been a part of my entire life. It just keeps leaving and coming back, but it's always there, waiting for me.
and it's just so bad. Just to put it into perspective, Naruto, from his very first Kagebunshin to his very last sexy harem, 700 chapters. That's it. That is all Naruto is. One Piece is still going and is at 1,000. And I read Hajime no Ippo. That's 1,300 chapters plus right now. It was a slog, but it was a rewarding slog. Royce, how did you feel about chapter 1,000 of One Piece, this momentous occasion? Do you feel it lived up to what was going on?
That's hard to say. I enjoyed it as a chapter. It was a good chapter, it was a good setup for a fight, but there's no denying that it's obvious that Oda sort of dragged things out so that this scene could happen in chapter 1000.
Oh yeah.
This scene should have happened 4 chapters ago.
Comfortably. It felt like filler. It felt like the last, month and a half has just been filler chapters of One Piece, and it just bothered me. And it irked me to no end. And you listen to me complain about it week after week. And I look at it, I'm like, oh my god, this feels so stupid. There's no sense of danger. There's no sense of oh no. It's just what is your tone right now? What are you doing? Can you please pick a lane? And
Well, now that they've actually reached the point where they're fighting each other, it'll probably pick back up a bit. Oda will make one of those big maps where it shows who's where and who's fighting who, and we can just start jumping between fights in action.
yeah, that will be nice. And I know you're right. I know this is a classic setup, and the stuff before between Water 7 and Cypher Pole 9, that was also, a bit of a slog because it was setting up for that. I get it. It's just, give me it. I've gone through this already with you. Just do it. I didn't get it in Fishman Island. I haven't gotten it up till now. Do it. Give me those 10 plus chapters.
He spent so much time on trying to make us feel impressed and happy about how the samurai were doing against Kaido, and that ended up being pointless.
It did nothing. And it was hundreds of chapters we've interacted with these characters, and then it just sort of, that's it.
Yeah, the big moment where it turned out all of them were using Oda's famous two-sword style, and it's it would have been so narratively meaningful if that's how they won.
Right.
But it has to be Luffy being king of the pirates, so they lost, and that was disappointing, I think.
They deserved better. It just didn't. And I am sure that's, narrative structure, but we've seen this time and time and time again. You can do this well. I don't know. I'm not clocked out on One Piece. I still read it, but it's not. So, Royce, I want to. This is a weird aside, but what's your order when you read your chapters every week? Because I always do it like the ones I don't like. I read those first, and I save like the good ones for last. And My Hero is honestly like the second one I read every morning, and One Piece is the third. Like I want to get them out of there so I know everything else is going to be quality.
You know, that is actually a very interesting question. I will say that it has been lacking in consistency recently, and that's due to the fact that like Chainsaw Man ended and One Punch Man keeps dropping in and out. And We Never Learn is a manga I used to follow but just ended recently. I just like it to be known that like We Never Learn is garbage. It's just, you know, it's a soap opera that's like eating potato chips. I get it's bad. I don't defend reading it, but I read it. But anyways, basically what I would do is I would go in, I would read My Hero Academia, then I would read Chainsaw Man, then Dr. Stone, then One Piece. I always go straight to My Hero Academia because it's my favorite, and also because this arc has been like really tense. So I just like gotta know who got set on fire. Who's set on fire this week?
Who is dead? Oh, she's dead. Oh, Vigilantes was great.
Vigilantes is great.
I caught up on Vigilantes, and I remember when we were talking about when it was first announced, I'm like, I have so many doubts that this is going to be good, and then it's actually really, really impressive.
I've always loved Vigilantes. I know that you were kind of mixed feelings on it at the beginning, but I've loved it since the beginning. Oh, and also I should point out, I finished reading those, and then later in the day, you usually message me about what you think about this, and then I go, oh, that's right, I forgot to read High School Family and Cop and Dolphin, and then I go back and read those. That's my procedure.
Which is so weird, because I don't read High School Family. I have zero interest in High School Family. It is one of the most horrifying displays. I hate the art. I read like 2 chapters of it, and I was just so confused and underwhelmed. It was like the Maid-chan Borg thing.
It's so underwhelming.
I was just like waiting for something more. And like, okay, a lot of things ended recently. We Never Learn, Chainsaw Man, Mori King is ending.
I'd say Promise Neverland is personally still on my list of, wow, that's over, I forgot.
Okay, Promise Neverland is cheating because they're just like, ooh, oh, I'm sorry, here's another chapter, here's another chapter, here's another, just end, please.
And you know what else ended recently? Bone Collection.
Bone Collection?
How could you forget about Bone Collection?
Oh my, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if saying it ended is the right word, but it's technically accurate.
I am so upset. Hell Warden Higema got canceled. It was so good. I had so many high hopes for it. The other one I hope doesn't get canceled is Kaiju number 8. Because
oh god, I can't see that happening. Kaiju number 8 is gonna last forever.
I need it to. I love it so much. It's interesting because it's a digital only release, which is really cool. The story's great. I like the art style. It's very...
Oh, it's so good.
Very bold, I think is the best way to put it. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like a very angular version of Dauman Seimon's art style.
Yeah, I can see that. And like the monster designs are interesting. I don't know. It's just, I have very high hopes for it. Do you still read World Trigger?
No.
I caught up on World Trigger. I can't tell you what happened. It's like Call of Duty the anime at that point. It just keeps going and going and go like manga, because the new anime just started. I was just kind of curious, like, is this it? Did I just like miss out on some major story? No, it was just, team deathmatch. Again and again and again and again and again, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, so much for the alien invasion, I guess. That was kinda neat. Yeah. Do you read Seraph of the End?
No.
Oh, that's a weird one too. I hate that one.
So what we got together for this because we had to talk about One Piece, and like it's such a slog now. Like the thing is, even when it's not narratively a slog, like its continued existence is just sort of a chore at this point. I no longer feel joy in it. It is like getting my morning cup of coffee. It's just part of my life, I guess.
And like, not to sound cynical, because of course it's One Piece. It's iconic. It's impacted a lot of people in a lot of different ways. You know, you can have emotional connections to it, and that's perfectly fine. We've all had them. It's all good. I remember when Ace's death was still fresh to me.
Yeah.
700 chapters ago.
I feel like I need to like drop it again because I've done that 4 times in my life where I just dropped it and then come back and do a binge. I feel like that's the only way for me to get back that emotional connection to this, because like I have no clue what is even going on with the poneglyphs anymore. I follow that every week, and they just keep shoehorning it in, and there's such massive gaps in between each mention of the poneglyphs, despite the fact that they're apparently like the entire plot now. And I just can't keep up, because doing it 1 week at a time means that I see one sentence about poneglyphs every 2 months.
I don't know. It's so bizarre. Like, how do you get caught up in One Piece? How do you start from chapter 1 and manage to just barrel through to 1000? Like, you have to take so many breaks. Like, I tried this. I tried when 800 came out and when 900 came out, and admittedly, I'm probably going to do it with 1000, because I just have to see how long is it going to take to do that and not be so bored out of your mind. How many times have you seen these stories? You know these ideas, because narratively, One Piece is very repetitive. It has a lot of elements it likes to reuse again and again and again. And because it's One Piece, it doesn't really have a lot of plot twists. It doesn't really deviate much from the hero's journey overall. And so you still have this sort of security, knowing that the team is still going to move forward in a positive direction, even when there are, Kuma's time skip and everything like that. It's so safe that you'll never really get out of your comfort zone with it. And I don't know, I don't like being swaddled for 1000 chapters. I like something.
Here's something I've thought recently. I'm starting to get the impression that we are no longer the target audience of One Piece. I no longer believe that the target audience of One Piece is the people who devotedly show up every single week. I really get the impression that this is now targeted for people who just kind of drop in and out, for people who just flip through channels and are like, oh, One Piece, my comfort food, because it's so predictable and very little ever changes. It's so slow, but at the same time, you can kind of expect that all of like the traditional, all of like the normal like plot points and character moments will happen consistently, like every 2 chapters. Like every 3 chapters, Nami will try to steal something, or Usopp will be terrified, or Sanji will be a pervert, or Zoro will get lost. And that always has to happen, because that way people can just kind of show up in the middle of nowhere, having not seen 200 episodes, and like they're not lost in the slightest, because it's just kind of like, oh, he's fighting this guy now. Cool. At least he's still doing his cool sword thing that I saw 8 months ago. And it's making it really difficult for us to stay in this in it for this long, because I mean, I'm so sick. I'm so tired, Aiden, of the Usopp being a coward storyline. I'm tired of it. He has had like 9 different character arcs of getting over that cowardly disposition, and it never sticks long enough for him to go to a different island. Because if he loses that, then he's going to go to the next island, and some other person, some kid is going to be like, oh, right, One Piece, I haven't watched this since last year. Let me tune in. Oh, all the characters are kind of different now. I'm confused. I'll watch something else. And it's just frustrating. I'm none of the characters really grow. The only change the only change is that at the beginning of the series, Luffy's determination was kind of fun and like, I'm gonna have a big party. But now 1,000 chapters later, he's still exactly as determined, but now he frowns.
Yeah, now he's a sad captain.
Yeah.
I don't know. Will it ever end in a satisfying way? That's the one question that I shamefully lay awake at night some nights thinking about. Because it's such a monumental series. It's such an iconic series. It's one of the best-selling manga in the world. It's, easily one of Shonen Jump's top 5 highest grossing series. It's just, when it ends, will it be worth it?
The only possible ending that I personally could be happy with, like I've actually also thought about this. The only way I'll ever be happy is if the treasure turns out to be the friends we made along the way, because that'll be a really stupid and predictable ending, and that will make me laugh. I swear to God, I will be so tickled if it turns out to be that the real treasure was the friends we made along the way. If it's anything else, if it's real treasure, then I'm just gonna be like, really? I stuck around for 2,000 chapters for this? At least if it's the friends along the way, I'll have a good laugh out of it. Anything else is not going to be worth it. It's too much.
I want the friends along the way to be juxtaposed over images of all the brutal deaths that happen in One Piece, and just be like, yeah, friendship, just right in front of like Akainu's hand through Ace. Just to remind you, friendship, everybody. Gotta have friendship. All right. Now, Royce, you wanted to talk about this, and this is very interesting. So the creator of Beelzebub has a new series called Shark and Dolphin. And Royce actually told me to read it, because when I first saw it, I thought, this looks dumb, I'm not going to touch it. But he told me that I needed to read this.
Yep.
And so I started it, and I loved it, and I have been consecutively loving it chapter after chapter. However, Royce, how do you feel about Shark and Dolphin now?
Oh my God, I still read it, but it's 25 chapters in. It is less than a year old, and this manga's already dead to me.
I don't know. So why don't you like it? Why don't you enjoy where it is and where it's going?
Okay, so you mentioned at the beginning that it was a conversation specifically about Cop and Dolphin compared to One Punch Man, and that is very important because these two mangas have followed the exact same arc, and the only difference is that Shark and Dolphin is doing it Cop and Dolphin is doing it faster. So when you look at Cop and Dolphin and One Punch Man, if you compare their first 10 chapters, it's sort of, I guess, thematically the same concept. It is a parody of shonen storytelling. It is presenting a shonen situation, and it is just saying, like, it's setting up the drama of shonen. It's expecting you to get into the shonen mindset of when you watch that stuff, and then it undercuts it, and then it says, like, you don't get your payoff. One Punch Man is entirely about that concept. That is 100% of the joke. And here's the thing, though. The joke gets old. If you have a series about one joke, how do you continue that joke? One Punch Man's response to that question is that you extend the build-up. The series One Punch Man is just steadily, exponentially increasing the distance between the start of the joke and the punchline, the literal punchline. You start episode 1, he punches a guy and he explodes. And then in episode 2, you have to wait the entire episode before he punches them. Then after that, you have to wait 2 episodes before he punches the guy. And after that, you have to wait, after that, you basically have to wait the rest of the season before he finally punches the guy, you know? And that has just ruined it. Like, I can't One Punch Man isn't fun anymore. The idea is that, we make a shonen anime and it's all, everyone's taking it super seriously, and everyone's got cool moves, and into the world, and everyone makes plans and does shonen's cool stuff. And then at the very climactic ending, this guy shows up and ruins it. And I'm sorry, but it's no longer a joke. I get what you're going for, but you have unintentionally left the joke behind, and you are now just making a bad shonen story, because One Punch Man has been dealing with this Monster Association infiltration for 2 real-time years. That is a 2-year-long setup to a joke, and I'm sorry, but that's not a joke anymore. You're just making a normal shonen anime that has a bad climax. And Cop and Dolphin is doing the same thing. It started off with that shonen setup and then undercut it with like stupidity, and now it's just a normal shonen anime. I have no doubt that this arc they're currently in, where they're diving to a secret underwater temple that was hidden from echolocation, because there was a temperature difference, but now it's been unveiled by the secret merman cult. And I'm sure that the climax of this is going to turn out to be a joke, because it's supposed to be a joke manga, but we're spending months of our lives pretending it's a shonen anime, and at a certain point, you're not actually pretending anymore. Let's face it, this arc is not a joke. It's just a manga artist who got way too into the Arlong Park arc and wants to do that again.
I don't know. I really loved Beelzebub when it first started, because it started serious, kinda. Like, it obviously the concept of, Beelzebub, little baby, attaches to the main character, and he has to fight through, the school bosses. It's very cliche, but the way it was handled initially, it was done well enough. And then it just, as the series progressed, it got weirder and sillier, and it just sort of fell apart narratively to the point that it was just struggling to the finish line. I really appreciate that Cop and Dolphin is it's established the sort of comedy of the moment. It has that sort of buddy cop element, but there are sort of those more serious arcs, like what's going on right now, and even the murder from the arc before, where the girl chops off her leg. That's really intense for the start of a series like this. And yeah. I don't know. I'm not gonna write it off yet. Obviously, I do agree with you to an extent on One Punch Man. The thing that keeps me coming back is obviously the art. It's still absolutely stunning and beautiful, even if the story is a bit predictable and just doesn't really do anything comedically. It's still beautiful to look at. Cop and Dolphin, I don't know, I still have hope for it. I like where it is right now, but I can understand why it would be frustrating.
I've got the most recent chapter, number 25, just sitting right here in front of me, and you could just scan through this whole chapter, and there's only one joke in the entire chapter, and that joke is that, wow, that eel looks kind of silly. That's it. That's the only joke. The rest of this is completely normal shonen stuff, and the only thing that makes it not normal is that one of them is a dolphin. The series was created as a joke. One of them is a dolphin. That was the joke. But now they've just completely ignored the origin and the reason people showed up at the beginning, and now they're just a regular shonen manga existing in a world that was created as a joke, and that's not a good combination.
It isn't. What I will say, just in juxtaposition to that, Mashle is absolutely the perfect blend of comedy and shonen narrative, because it interweaves, okay. It interweaves comedy and shonen elements so perfectly, because the main character, Mash, has no magic in a world of wizards. So he solves everything by being ripped as hell and just deadlifting everything. And yet it's still, the world is a serious world that interacts with him seriously, but he just doesn't care. It doesn't apply to him. And it's just so fascinating, as opposed to Saitama in One Punch Man, who is, I'm not going to say secondary, but the way the story handles it now, he's not really even the main focus. He's there sometimes, but it's going to be, you know, here's Kid Genius fighting, and then Atomic Samurai. You like Zombie Man, right? Well, here's a Zombie Man fight. And you're like, okay, but can Saitama do something? Oh, here's Saitama one-punching King Orochi. Cool. All right. So we're done, right? No, people are still okay. Why? Just get out of there, folks.
I completely agree. Mashal is way better set up for that. It's way better set up to like last longer. I'm sorry, One Punch Man is neat, but its existence as a comedy manga is over. It ended a long time ago. It's now just a normal shonen manga, and Cop and Dolphin is reaching that same point. I'm not saying that these jokes are bad. I'm not saying these jokes can't work. They did work. They already have. I've already laughed my head off at both of these series. But that joke is not set up for these long form stories. It stops being funny. It has. I'm sorry, we've already passed the point of diminishing returns for amusement for One Punch Man years ago, and I'm telling you, I'm already feeling that with Cop and Dolphin. Mashal is definitely going the more correct route for a long-form series, which is where it's interweaving the comedy throughout the whole thing. If you're gonna make a story based around a joke of undercutting your own genre, you gotta get to the point, because otherwise you're not actually undercutting your genre. You're just part of it.
Yeah, there's a fine line between parody and knockoff. And
that's such a good point. That's a great point. One Punch Man is like above average in art quality, but narratively it's just a knockoff. It's just a knockoff of Shonen Jump.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably where we're gonna go into our final segment here, where we're gonna talk about some of our favorite series that we're reading right now, because Royce reads things that I don't read, I read things that he doesn't touch, and so we just want to take a moment and talk about them. One that I know neither of us really cares about is Yorazura Family.
You don't read that, do you?
Oh, I do. I caught up on it because I was curious.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Please tell me, because honestly, I did not catch that bus in time, and I'd love to hear that. Do tell.
Okay, so, and this is funny because it's a mafia series. The main character lost his parents in a car crash, and he basically became an orphan. And the Yorazura family, or whatever they're called, has a daughter, and he decides that he wants to protect her with everything he's got. And so in high school, he marries her and becomes the husband of the 13th head of the assassin family. And so he has to protect his powerless wife with the new magic powers he acquires. And that's it. That's the whole thing. There's 8 siblings. They've all had their episode. And by episode, I mean just 20 pages. Just a clean... This thing has 73 chapters right now. I couldn't tell you what any of their names are. It's like, who's that Pokemon? I can get... Yeah, I know what it is, but I don't know their name or anything else. They're the one that plays the video games to hack into the Pentagon. And they're the one that hides in a trash can that has Gatling guns on it for some reason. And that one's just a weird freakish Hulk monster that's supposed to be your little brother. And it's just I don't know. There's a whole thing where their dad is the main antagonist and is trying to kill them. And you're just sort of why? Why is a dad trying to kill his kids? And yeah, 73 I'm gonna keep reading at this point. I have to, but it's a miserable experience, Royce. I hate this series with every fiber of my being.
Well, that is a great segue into a manga that I read, but you don't, which is High School Family.
Yeah, I hate that. Tell us about it.
Okay, so High School Family is a new gag comedy manga from Shonen Jump. It's only got 20 chapters. It's very new. And the protagonist is a young man who has just graduated from junior high and is ready to make his debut as a new, exciting high school student. And then he shows up to high school, and it turns out that his little sister, his dad, his mother, and his cat have all simultaneously decided that they also want to go to high school and are now in his class together. So they are the High School Family.
Like, I come back to it from time to time just to see what dumb shit they're up to. And there was an episode or a chapter, whatever, where the dad was on like the volleyball team, and I was just reading like, what is going on? Why? And
so you might be, you show up and read occasionally.
Yeah.
So you might be wondering, like, what's the appeal? What's the draw? Where's the quality of this story hidden, right?
Right.
There isn't any. It's terrible.
Okay, so like I didn't know there was like some secret wonder to it, or if you just really liked it because it was just that bad.
It's so bad. It's terrible. I can honestly say that chapter 1 is genuinely funny. The first chapter, the concept of this, like, there's really, really good visual timing in the gags in chapter 1. Like, I just can't deny that. That's why I decided to keep reading, because of how good chapter 1 is. The rest is terrible. It's really fascinating, and I'd like to juxtapose it against One Punch Man. I was saying that One Punch Man and that undercutting its genre doesn't work for long form, and it needs to just get to its point. And this is proof that that kind of undercutting comedy needs to have a perfect middle ground and nothing else works, because High School Family is the opposite of One Punch Man, where One Punch Man evolves its joke by extending the gap in between each punchline. High School Family has the exact same punchline every time, but it doesn't change the timing. Every chapter goes exactly the same. The protagonist wants to have a normal high school life, so he chases down some very generic aspect of being in high school, be it a club, being it studying for tests, be it talking to a new girl. Then one of his weird family walks in and decides they want to do it too, but they earnestly attempt it in the wrong way, because they're not teenagers. They're either a child or an adult or a cat. And then everyone in the school eventually figures out, oh, they're not doing it the stereotypical way, but they are doing it in a very, very warm, earnest way. I think I should give them a second chance. And then the protagonist goes, this is the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe my high school is ruined like this. And the chapter ends. It's the exact same every time. So they're undercutting the genre. They're undercutting the wholesomeness of like the romantic high school concept by making it be a grown man. But it only works so many times. And after 20 chapters, they already passed how many times that joke works a long time ago. So all that you're left with is 4 idiots and one very poorly drawn cat just kind of pretending that they're in a high school manga. That's the only way I could describe it. They're not pretending to be high schoolers. They're pretending to be a high school manga. It's so stilted and awkward and fake. I would not be surprised if someone told me that the author of this is still in high school.
It looks so, I hate to say it, but like juvenile, like just not in like a oh, this is for kids, like just this is the most basic bland nothingness I've ever seen. And it's sort of like, okay, so there's like the holy trinity of why does this keep going. It's like this, Magu-chan, God of Destruction, and me and Roboco. Every time I have to see me and Roboco show up on my little app thing, I'm horrified, because I will hop into this series just to see, like, okay, I need to know, is this going anywhere? Nope, that's what I thought. It isn't, but that was horrifying, and I hated everything that was drawn there. High School Family is just juvenile. The most basic idea, the most basic concepts, just laid out chapter.
The most basic character design, the most basic layout. It really, yeah, it looks like 3 high school students were like, yeah, we could do this too. And they somehow managed to publish their first draft.
And then, you have that, you have Me and Roboco, which is just an absolutely horrifying series. I hate it. I want it to burn. As well as Magu-chan God of Destruction, which, have you read either of these series?
No, I don't. I did read the first 3 chapters of Magu-chan, but I haven't read Roboco because I knew that you would do it for me.
Well, you were right, and I hate it. It's so bad. I jump in and out of it, and every time I do, I'm just more disappointed in myself. Because, you start it, and it's like, oh, haha, his is a burly, giant woman, man, ape thing that'll, kick ass for him. And, that's it. That's the whole concept, except it doesn't go anywhere, or do anything, or introduce any other gags. It just sort of falls apart. I'm looking at the app right now. Which do you want to see get canceled first? Ghost Reaper Girl or A Gravity Boys? Because honestly,
Ghost Reaper Girl's gotta go.
It's so bad. It's so bad. I hate how pretentious it is when it says, you have to read it the other way. Oh, that's so cool. You're so rad. I'm still bored with you.
A Gravity Boys is uninteresting. Ghost Reaper Girl is like a genuine blight on the manga industry. I don't want this shit in Shonen Jump anymore.
I'm offended it exists.
Yeah,
frankly,
that's not even a joke. I'm sad that we're still at this point.
It only has 11 chapters. And that's 11 chapters too many.
It's gross. It's uncomfortable. It's High School Family is juvenile in the term that it seems new, and that I genuinely believe that they're going to get better. The person who makes it is 30 and they have very little work to their name. I think that they're going to get better at the timing of comedy. I think they're going to get better at setting up more interesting characters that will allow for a more diverse range of jokes. They'll get better. Ghost Reaper Girl is juvenile in the form that it's well put together. The character design is complex and sometimes interesting. It's well drawn, but the stories they want to tell are gross and pathetic, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this being what anime is.
Yeah. I will say, though, just a flip side of the coin from that, one of my favorite, and we'll just do a couple more of these, Jujutsu Kaisen. I keep telling you to read it because it is so phenomenal. I adore this series. It's a fantastic horror shonen hybrid that is really, really good. The art is beautiful. The story is really complex. It has so there's an arc that's called October 31st, Shibuya Station. And I've told you about this. It's 67 chapters long. And so Halloween exists for about a year in the Jujutsu Kaisen verse. And
wait, what?
It's the longest year I've ever had to read. Just begging for something to happen, because when it finally does, and it just did, you lose your mind. I know I'm sounding cryptic and I'm talking out of my head. It's because I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible, because I know Jujutsu Kaisen is getting popular right now with the anime, and the anime is really good. I do recommend, if you hear this, please watch the anime. But I do also really encourage, if you like the anime, read the manga. The manga is incredible. The art is beautiful. And Royce, you need to read it.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll read it.
Just give it a try. There's a character named Panda whose power is he's a panda. And why is he a panda? Don't worry about it. He's just a panda. And it's that kind of charm that makes it so great.
All right. Look, I'm writing it in my planner right now. I'm misspelling it as we speak. I'm scribbling out the misspelled part. There we go. I fixed it. Okay, it's in my to-do list.
Perfect. Now, Royce, what's another series you would like to talk about?
Well, I guess we can talk about what the hell's going on in Dr. Stone.
Oh, you mean everyone's favorite Let's Race Through South America?
Dr. Stone has gotten too high stakes.
It's escalated way too high, like way too fast, to a point that where does it go from here other than like aliens? Like,
we're already at aliens.
I know, but like actually like combating them.
Like, Dr. Stone has 180 chapters, and the stakes raising that we have reached in this series, it took One Piece a decade to get to anything like this.
Oh.
And that's not a compliment. Like, there's a reason you take your time. Dr. Stone, like, it won't stop, and it's hard to get invested when it's just keep blowing up larger and larger.
It's like, I don't know. I want it to improve, but I know it won't.
The draw of the series is definitely been like the curiosity. It's almost Minecraft like the way it keeps your attention, in that I'm fascinated by the way that their little group grows scientifically by like building off of their existing work, you know? You craft something, you use that tool to get better things, and then you use those better things to make better tools. And that's like, I grew up with Minecraft. That's very interesting for me and our generation, and it's clearly working. It's a surprisingly popular series. I was not expecting Dr. Stone to be as popular as it is. I thought it was going to be something kind of niche that I knew about and was like surprised. Like, I had to cross my fingers and hope that it didn't get canceled, but no, it's taken off, and I don't think they've learned the right lesson from their explosive popularity, because it's getting out of hand.
I feel like that's sort of like what's happening with Black Clover, where they started with this really okay concept, and now they're just sort of stretching it out and milking it for literally as much as they can, even though they very obviously wanted to be done like 70 chapters ago, and it's so disappointing. But the one series I did want to talk about before we end off is Build King. It is a series I have the most hope for. I need it to succeed, even though I am already seeing cracks in the foundation and I don't know how they're going to handle it.
Please tell me that pun was intentional.
It was 100% intentional.
I love you.
I've been mulling that over. Build King is from the creator of Toriko. It has that same really great idea of world building, and much in the same vein as One Piece. When One Piece is done well, they can build an excellent world. They can build a world that seems so surreal yet grounded. And Toriko was phenomenal at this, with all these made-up foods that were submitted by the kids that were reading, and different characters in different continents. And there was a really neat sort of infrastructure built within these series that helped build the narrative. And Build King is starting on that same idea, but it's much more weirdly fantastical. Where Toriko it tried to use more faux science than like faux magic, and Build King is much more a magical angle. And I don't know, I'll be interested to see where it goes. It's got demon houses and house monsters, and Build Kings are giant buildings that have been possessed by evil spirits. So I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued.
I find I have always had trouble with Toriko because it's kind of the pure epitome of like, oh, I'm emotionally deciding to be stronger as part of my character arc, therefore I'm stronger than you. And I guess I'm just kind of waiting for the character to, it's like, all right, hurry up, come on, decide that you're stronger than the other person. And I have trouble with that kind of thing. It's very much exemplified by the protagonist Hammer, where his hammer, the Vigor Hammer, is powered by how willful he's being, and the name of his moves is always like measured in meters. Like they're literally using metric measurements to tell you how determined he is. And the series is just going to last like 5 years. And every time he decides that he's going to have like a miniature character arc where he decides, well, up until now, I haven't been determined enough. And then they'll add like 20% more meters to his hammer length. And that's just going to be the series. I have no patience for this thing. I understand the appeal, but it's not for Royce.
That's fair. That's absolutely 100% fair. It's why, like, I loved Toriko. I loved from chapter 1 to the last chapter, even though, like, the gourmet world got a little too out of hand. It didn't know how to really stick the landing. It introduced aliens and ghost aliens and God. And yeah, it took on too much. And ultimately, yeah, the ending was a little weak, but I wasn't disappointed with the journey. I recently reread it just because I read Build King Chapter 1, and I'm like, I want to go back and experience Toriko. And, I mean, Toriko's healthy. I think it's like 300 to 400 chapters long, as opposed to One Piece, where I know I would be bored within the first 400 chapters. I never felt dissatisfied. I never felt like I was doing this just to slug through. It always kept my attention, and it always kept adding on elements. And I really appreciated that. And a lot of it seemed to blur together in my memory, and then seeing it laid out again actually reminded me of a lot of really nice moments that it had. Even though the narrative, sort of fell apart, the individual pieces were charming enough to keep me. And I think Build King, if it can maintain that same magic Toriko had, I think it can do it. I'm hoping for like a quick time skip, like character change, and then we'll see what happens after that. But
it makes a lot of sense that these style of shonen stories, these kind of shonen stories, they inherently can't have good endings. I know that some of them do, but like those are exceptions. This whole genre has a severe ending problem, and the reason for that is because, if we're being really honest, shonen storytelling is the exact midpoint between action movies and soap operas, where like the heart and soul of this content is this sort of never-ending nonsense of it. And it does end because there's a lot of action movie to it. So eventually they hit the final boss. But if we're being honest, everyone here is in it for the long slog part. That's honestly the draw of it. So Naruto can have fun ninja action moves, but inevitably it'll reach a climax, and those climaxes will always sort of be a denial of the core content of the series, making it just so difficult to have a good, satisfying ending. Bleach didn't have a satisfying ending. Naruto didn't have a satisfying ending. Boruto definitely won't have a satisfying ending. That's just kind of how shonen works.
I can't think of, just off the top of my head, I can't really think of any series that I felt like had a really solid ending.
Dragon Ball Z is trying to put off this problem. No one wants to admit that Dragon Ball Z is terrible, and if Dragon Ball Z finally ends, people will finally address the fact that it's terrible, but it's just so long in the running. They just gotta keep churning it out as far as they can, because the series has ended 7 times and none of them were good, but they always bring it back before anyone can really have that conversation.
It's unfortunate. And speaking of unsatisfying endings, I think that's where we're going to call it for this episode of Anime Reality, Manga Reality, what have you. As always, I'm Aiden Hall.
I'm Royce McCoy.
And welcome to Season 2 of Anime Reality. Good night, everybody.